Forward. I have been asked by both publisher and author to write a cursory preface to the story of Monty Field's murder. Let me say at once that I am neither a writer nor criminologist. To make authoritative remarks, therefore, and that the techniques of crime and crime fiction is obviously beyond my capacity. Nevertheless, I have one legitimate claim to the privilege of introducing this remarkable story, based as it is upon perhaps the most mystifying crime of the past decade. If it were not for me, the Roman hat mystery would never have reached the fiction-reading public. I am responsible for its having been brought to light, and there my pallid connection with it ends. During the past winter I shook off the dust of New York and went a-traveling in Europe. In the course of my capricious roving about the corners of the continent, a roving introduced by that boredom which comes to every Conrad in quest of his youth, I found myself, one August day, in a tiny Italian mountain village. How I got there, its location, and its name do not matter. A promise is a promise, even when it is made by a stockbroker. Dimly I remembered that this toy hamlet, perched at the lip of a sierra, harbored two old friends whom I had not seen for 2 years. They had come there from the seething sidewalks of New York to bask in the brilliant peace of an Italian countryside. Well, perhaps it was as much curiosity about their regrets as anything else that prompted me to intrude upon their solitude. My reception at the hands of old Richard Queen, keener and grayer than ever, and of his son Ellery, was cordial enough. We had been more than friends in the old days. Perhaps to the Venus air of Italy was too heady a cure for their dust-choked Manhattan memories. In any case, they seemed profoundly glad to see me. Mrs. Ellery Queen, Ellery was now the husband of a glorious creature, and the startled father of an infant who resembled his grandfather to an extraordinary degree, was as gracious as the name she bore. Even Juna, no longer the scapegrace I had known, greeted me with every sign of nostalgia. Despite Ellery's desperate efforts to make me forget New York and appreciate the lofty beauties of his local scenery, I had not been in their tiny villa for many days before a devilish notion took possession of me, and I began to pester poor Ellery to death. I have something of a reputation for persistence, if no other virtue, so that before I left, Ellery, in despair, agreed to compromise. He took me into his library, locked the door, and attacked an old steel filing cabinet. After a slow search, he managed to bring out what I suspect was under his fingers all the time. It was a faded manuscript, bound Ellery-like in blue legal paper. The argument raged. I wished to leave his beloved Italian shores with the manuscript in my trunk, whereas he insisted that the sheaf of contention remain hidden in the cabinet. Old Richard was wrenched away from his desk, where he was writing a treatise for a German magazine on American crime and methods of detection. To settle the affair, Mrs. Queen held her husband's arm as he was about to close the incident with a woman-like burst. Juna clucked gravely, and even Ellery Jr. extracted his pudgy hand from his mouth long enough to make a comment in his gurgle language. The upshot of it all was that the Roman hat mystery went back to the States in my luggage. Not unconditionally, however. Ellery is a peculiar man. I was forced solemnly and by all I held dear to swear the identities of my friends and of the important characters concerned in the story be veiled by pseudonyms, and that on pain of instant annihilation their names be permanently withheld from the reading public.